You were live.
Good. I'd like to call the Groseville Airport Commerce Park Commission to order. The first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Brandon, will you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
No
Item
problem.
number 2 is roll call. Mr. Moran is here. Mr. Rathel?
Here.
Mr. Porcelli?
Here.
Mr. Tanova?
Here.
Mr. Mans? Mr. Hornby?
Here.
And Mr. Filarski?
Here.
Item number 3 is any additions or deletions to the agenda. Oh, and Mr. Mans is here.
Yep,
Good.
Mr. Chair,
Hey,
if I
Chris.
may interrupt, if we can just go around to meet that Open Meetings Act and just
Oh.
state what city you're currently in for the meeting.
Yep, we all need to indicate where we are as we attend this meeting, and I am on Groseville. Mr. Rathel?
Kathmandu, Nepal. Or Groseville.
Mr. Porcelli?
Groseville, Michigan.
Mr. Tanova?
Groseville.
Mr. Mans?
Groseville.
Mr. Hornby?
Groseville.
And Mr. Filarski?
Groseville.
Okay. Now we have, is there any additions or deletions to the agenda? If none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve. So moved.
Motion by Mr. Filarski, supported by, was that Mr. Mans?
Yes, sir. Hey, I'm going to try to switch over to my computer. I'm on my phone, so if I lose you, that's why, but I'll be back.
No worries, I'll get you back in.
Thanks.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carries. Item number 4 is the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting on March 4th, 2021.
Support.
Got a motion by Mr. Porcelli,
Second.
support by Mr. Hornby. All those in favor say aye.
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 Say no. Motion carries. Item number 5 is the financial report for March 2021. And
Value, the 100 octane 100 LL is $27,066 in value. So you can see we finished the year about 10% to the good if we were to remove that additional expenditure that was not budgeted. And you know, for me, it's great to see the revenues up there. I think that $1 million range is kind of a psychological one in terms of health. You know, when we talked about our budget for next year, you know, that's kind of the last time we saw anything in that ballpark of a number was 06, 07 before the big downturn. So to me, that's a really good number. I think things are trending really well at the end of the year. Again, as the overall budget went, we did clear it by about 10 or 11% if you include the fuel inventory. On the past due rent summary, I've had a lot of movement since this was generated last week. The Bowman account is no longer existent. That's been paid in full. The Galindo's has been paid in full. The tenant that was on the previous meeting that had a pretty significant past due amount, around $8,000, submitted, it was almost $9,000, submitted an $8,000 payment before the deadline the commission gave him by the 1st. I gave him an additional 5 days to give me the remaining $1,000, and he did that. So that's our tenant, Building 63. I want to bring that up to the commission. My plan right now, unless the commission feels otherwise or wants to have a discussion on it, the account's paid in full. The tenant's lease is up for renewal. So what I was going to do was give him month to month for 3 months. And if the account remains current, we'll renew a 1-year lease. If it does not, we can terminate that lease and move on to some other interested parties that would be willing to pay and remain current on rent. So that is my plan with that. The only other note I'm going to try to resolve on here is the last one. Our sideline tenant is a very, very long-term tenant. They've been here, I believe, since the Navy left. I know it's been 20 to 30 years at a minimum. COVID has hit them without discussion with me. It looks like COVID's hit them kind of hard, and they've had a couple other family issues. So I'm going to be meeting with them. They intend to pay that down. I think we're going to have to do some sort of a payment plan. That building's right there along Grow Road. But again, it's been a building that we don't maintain. They're responsible for the roof, the loading dock that's in there, and all the other maintenance items on the facility. So long-term tenant, I'm going to try to get that resolved as I think peacefully as we can, but I think there needs to be deadlines and times put in dates. So I'll be working with the tenant to do that.
Any questions for Mike on the past due rent? Hearing none. Anything else, Mike, you want to point out?
Nope. I think that covers it, unless anyone else has any questions for me.
Okay. Mike, I had a question. I see that we have some expired leases, and obviously Sideline is one you just talked about. What about Stanley and Associates?
You know, those are tenants that since I've been here, we haven't had a lease with. It's just been kind of a month to month. Both very long-term tenants have been here for 20 plus years each. I've never poked too hard at that. I've mentioned it in passing, and I think those might be accounts that are better just to left run. And again, longer term tenants, unless the commission wants to push for, you know, some sort of a lease. But with the track record, those don't concern me a lot. Both those are kind of smaller dollar amounts, and Stanley's an office space on the north side.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Chris here. Mike, I don't know. I think we need to be consistent with everybody, and I don't think it'd be hard to ask them just to do a quick lease. That's my opinion.
Just a month though, right, Chris?
Well, I guess I should clarify. I can clarify. I'm
Sorry.
sorry if I didn't represent that properly. They've had leases that have expired and they revert to month, so that they are under a legal contract per se, but the contract has expired and it reverts to the month clause in there. I think the last lease with Stanley would have been like 98 or 2000. I'd have to go back and look at the file, but
all right, then it's probably I was under the assumption that we had nothing.
No, my apologies. I misrepresented.
No worries. Thanks.
Any other questions on the financial report? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to receive and file.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Mans. Support by Mr. Tanova. All those in favor say aye.
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 Say no. Motion carries. Item number 6 is the manager's report. Item 6A is the EPA facility update. Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a brief update. If anybody's been driving down along Grohl Road, you will probably see a for sale sign out in front of the EPA building, and it notes an auction sometime this summer. In your packets, I included the GSA listing off of their website. Right now, they're indicating a 6/8 start date. I know in the past from some of the emails I have sent you guys on updates, it's been kind of a start and stop process. They've hired a consultant because they have some concerns at the eligibility of being able to auction that building or interested parties and what it could be repurposed for. I have spent some time with that contractor, and I think we think similar, the contractor and I, but again, at this point, it is in the hands of the GSA going to auction. So it's something that I think we'll try to keep an eye on and keep some tabs on. Again, the township itself has still some work to do with a potential buyer. That property has no taxes established on it and hasn't since 1969. And well, even before then, because the Navy was here, I'm sorry. And then it also is zoned airport A1, so it's pretty restrictive on what they can or can't do. But just want to make you guys aware of the time frame. It looks like they're pushing that summer date because they don't want to carry the building with utilities for another winter, I believe is what's going on with that.
Any questions for Mike?
No.
Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on to item 6B, which is Pirates Cove Development Update.
I threw this on here. Things are tracking along well. I've invited Brandon back for our discussion item a little later in the meeting. We have gone through planning commission and the site plan was accepted and the special land use was extended. We had to go for another special land use because of the amount of outdoor storage that was proposed with the property, even though it's an extension of the special land use that Mr. Perry got when he did the original facility. We had to go for another one. So that has been granted through planning commission, and the township board accepted at the previous board meeting. There were some conditionals on there. I believe it was final review by our engineer and final fire department sign off. So Pirates Cove has pretty much been given the green light with those conditionals to start breaking ground here. They hope to do that. I invited Brandon back to this meeting to kind of spend a little more time with the aesthetics, with the commission, get a little more input from you guys, and then try to figure out where we want to partner on implementing our landscaping master plan with some signage and maybe share some themes with Pirates Cove and kind of brainstorm on that.
Yeah. Any questions for Mike on that? If not, we'll move on to item number 6C, which is the taxiway A design project update.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Got dog going nuts. A little bit of a long packet included in there, but this is our taxiway project that we have slated for construction next summer. But we're doing the design work for the reconstruction and the lighting this year with our consultant CNS engineers. We are kind of in a push now to do this all of a sudden. There's a May transfer for financials to get the money over to get the engineers started on the project. And the reason that we're nudging this along is with the coronavirus stimulus packages and then the Biden administration's new infrastructure packages. The FAA has been granted, I forget the figure, I believe it's around 20 billion for G airports in the country to fully fund projects. But the stipulation with giving 100% allocation is that they want the project construction ready to go. So we're pushing MDOT and I'm pushing our engineer CNS to get this design done so we can fit within those time windows to at least have a shot. So this is the scope of work that we have agreed to with our engineer CNS to do that design. You can see the construction estimates around 3.6 million. And this is again to reconstruct our taxiway Alpha from our center taxiway Charlie to our new runway 422 that we repaved. What was that, 3 years ago now? 3 years ago now. So this is again just the design work for that. And we're kind of going through we have to get like what's called an IFE, which is a comparable with the state before we can fund this. So you'll see our share for this project is budgeted. It's around $12,000 just for the design work. So I will keep you guys updated as things progress with that.
So you'll be bringing that back to us for approval, that expenditure?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, they've got to do the final documentation. That was just the scope of work.
Any questions for Mike on taxiway A design? Hearing none, we'll move on to our action items, which we have none tonight. So we'll move on to item number 8, which is our discussion items. Item 8A is the Pirates Cove final review and feedback. Brandon, anything you want to mention as it relates to plans and schedule and things like that?
Yeah, so looking at it with the building company that we have, Anson O'Brien, we were hoping to start probably here within a 2 to 3 week time frame of at least, moving dirt around, stuff like that. We're dealing with the fire marshal right now and making sure everything with him is A-okay. Originally, he sent us an email that said, nah, not A-okay. So we're getting everything lined up with him. So his issues were a couple of the buildings weren't sprinkled and didn't show a firewall in there. And so we've added the firewall to it and sent him the plans back. So hopefully we hear back from him here shortly and deal with that. And then we still have to deal with engineering purposes. So with everybody here, when we were at the planning commission meeting before, they said they would leave it up to the airport commission as to what we wanted to do with the limestone inserts that we have, the pirate themed or boat, RV, car themed, pictures on. And they stated specifically they didn't like our boat and RVs, but we're fine with any of the pirate themed stuff. So it's more asking for input, looking for input as to what specifically, and not just throwing out random ideas like we've done in the past, kind of pinpointing what we should get on there so we can get a rendering involved with, anything you guys approve of as well. So I think we have 13 inserts right now. And, half of those I'd like to keep as pirate themed. And then maybe the other ones try to tie in with Grosse Ile or the airport some way, shape, or form. Most of the inserts to make it uniform are wide rectangles. So you know, if we were looking at a lighthouse, that doesn't really line up with the way it goes unless we have like one setback in a, you know, kind of like a coastline. So it wouldn't maybe be exactly the Groseal Lighthouse, but would just be kind of a generalized backdrop to it. So that was what I was looking for. And then, as Mike said, landscaping. You know, so we got approved for all the trees that we have put up, but nothing is obviously finalized with specifics of landscaping. And we were hoping to specifically on Midway tie our, you know, southeast corner in with what would be going on the southwest corner on Midway, or, you know, kind of lining those different sides of the street as similar as possible, so it kind of ties everything in together.
And Brandon, what's your timeline for the landscaping? I'm assuming that's
vastly far out. So this is now just trying to get together, spitballing ideas, figuring out, you know, if I send you guys a plan, you've looked at it, if anybody else has any ideas, because I'm open to all suggestions up there. Nothing that we have is set in stone. It was all just put in there as we thought it looked similar to what your guys' master plan was in general.
Okay. Well, at some point, I wouldn't mind meeting with you face to face, kind of look at your plan, look at our master plan, and kind of see how we can tie them together. And Mike, if you want to be involved, or any other commissioners want to be involved in that meeting, just let me know. But I'd like to try to tie our master plan into what you're doing, so it all looks like it was done, you know, together.
Yeah, and we have plenty of time, and I've talked to the construction company as well, and they're more than willing to do the landscaping on both sides. You know, we come up with a price and figure that out, and or obviously we try to subcontract it out to make it uniform based off of what we have. Doesn't really matter in that aspect, but they're going to be out there anyways, and it's the last thing we do. So we're looking at a year and a half, you know, before that goes in.
Sure.
In general, we got plenty of time.
Okay. I'll open it up to if anybody has any questions for Brandon, or if they have any ideas as it relates to the illustrations that he's looking for some input. Anybody have any comments on that?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Tanova.
Just an idea, spitballing here, so I don't know. But I think, Brandon, you said half the inserts were going to be something that we can put like more Groseal themed.
Yeah, Groseal Airport, anything that kind of goes along with the city is what we were looking for. I mean, township, whatever. Like that's what we're looking for.
There's two things I'm thinking. Anybody can add on if they like. Having a couple of them themed to, you know, back at the Navy days here on the island, and also maybe the different sports that are here on the island that the Groseal schools, the kids do, something to like kind of support the community and support the athletics. I know soccer is big, especially in the Commerce Park, so something like that.
When you say sports, I mean, besides for soccer, golf, football, we talk there anything else?
You could do mascot too. I don't know if that's something you want to entertain or not, but
yeah, like a 8-man rowing show with oars for supporting, you know, Groseal crew. You know, your basic ones: the football, basketball, baseball.
Got it. Yeah, I had thought about before, you know, we have a couple different buildings obviously involved there, and maybe making a building specific to something. So, you know, one specific to the school, one specific to the city, one specific to the airport, something like that. It's going to take a lot of ideas and see what actually makes sense with the black and white pictures, because that's our main problem. You know, I like an idea and then I go try to get it rendered and it looks like garbage. You know, it's too muddled. You can't really make it out. So trying to figure that out is the best. So if anybody ever gets any pictures that you know, look like they might look good, send them over my way as well. Because this also, we have plenty of time for this as well. This is the last thing after the building's already put up, and it could sit there empty until we find out an idea as well. Like it has nothing involved with the structure or framework of the building.
Any other suggestions?
Come on, Rachel.
I think Mr. Mans might have some.
I mean, John, you brought up a couple of them. Do you have anything you want to add right now specifically? You know, specific airplanes, specific boats, things like that would help.
Yeah, I do have ideas, and, you know, I think it's probably important that everybody, you know, throws ideas in the hats. We have some time, and then,
yeah,
you know, the more ideas, the better. So,
okay.
Mr. Chairman, I've got just one question.
Yes, Mr. Porcello.
Brandon, and I'm sorry, I apologize because I know you said this in the beginning. Did you say that this project isn't going to start for a year and a half, or it won't be finished for a year and a half?
Finished. That's part of our actual lease that we have to finish it within that time frame. But it's the starting date. We were looking at breaking ground within the next couple of weeks here, as soon as we get as much approval as we can.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I understood that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, you're fine. Thank you.
Any other comments? Well,
Brandon, I do have a question for Brandon. So, whatever design that ends up going there, what kind of resolution, or, you know, what kind of format do you need this in? I mean, you can't obviously take a high-res photo and put it up there. Is it just a line drawing, or what specifically, you know how they do that?
Yeah, they don't care. We've given them every way, shape, form, picture possible, and they render it themselves. As long as in the long run, you know, we're still going to be ordering all of them, and specifically 13, which is more than we've ordered ever before, they'll be perfectly fine to render them and make sure it looks okay. And
are they etched in stone, or is it like drive it, or what is it?
No. This one specifically is a limestone material, and it'll be indented in it, so it's, you know, concave into it, and you can kind of makes it a little bit more depth to it.
And is there just black, or is there color capabilities in it, or?
So they come in black when we order them. We've actually thought about recently, because we just started putting treasure chests in them, maybe making the coins pop and be gold, things like that. Because it can always just be, it's paint, you know, we can always just add it after at any point in time. But we have never done a color yet. However, we have repeatedly discussed, you know, painting the actual gems or coins in the treasure chest that we just put in at our facility for the first time a couple months ago. Just trying to see what makes sense. It's, you know, one of those things that after you paint it, unless you got the right painter, doesn't always turn out the best.
And
I'm not an artist.
Is the majority of these medallions going to be along Midway, or where specifically are they going to be?
I think there's 4 specifically on Midway, so 3 in the back building and 1 in the building closer to Grow. And then there's I want to say there's 4 other ones on the west side of Grow, so there's a long building there, and then the other couple are just sporadically either on our office or the building on the southeast side as well. So yeah, I counted 13 total, but the majority really isn't Midway. I think it's just, you know, split kind of evenly. There's 4 there.
Is there position A and position B, or is there any specific positions that you want your pirate themed at?
Only the treasure chest on the building, in my mind, is what makes sense. On the office building, when I say building, sorry, the office building, everything else is up for grabs. I don't have a preference, and I don't, you know, it doesn't affect our business if I put all the pirate stuff up front or on the side. It's more just an added, you know, added little flair more than anything. You know, it's not advertising anything. I'm not selling pirates, so.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Brandon.
Yeah, no problem.
Hey, Brandon, one question.
Yeah.
And this, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Pirates Cove and Riverview, if anybody on the commission drives by the high school, they can get a real life visual of what these will look like.
Yeah. I'm actually sitting at Pirates Cove and Riverview right now. This is my office there. Yeah, they're right along Krause Street, looking, you know, from, if you were at the school, looking from Riverview High School. We have a building right there that has 3 of them on it, and then 2 of them on a new building down further. So yeah, you can get visual, and you can walk up to it. There's, you know, just grass and a sidewalk in front of it, so you can walk up to it and look even closer if you want. Thanks, Jacob.
Any other comments for Brandon? Well, Brandon, we'll stay in touch through Mike with any other suggestions, and obviously we have some time, so we appreciate you coming before the commission tonight and offering to work with us on the landscaping and these inserts. I think you've been a good backer of the community and the things that we're trying to do at the airport. So thank you for that, and we look forward to you getting started in a couple of weeks. Yeah, me too. We in discussing this, I guess I haven't brought this up with anybody. We were looking at maybe trying to do some form of groundbreaking ceremony, anything like that. And this is me first thinking of it, first stages of it. But you know, any way to, if you guys want to be involved in that, breaking ground, something like that. I was hoping to do that. You know, it's going to be our premier project. And our premier facility, you know, my office is going to be there, and I guess they think highly of me. And I think, you know, so I think that it'd be nice to do that, and maybe, you know, put that shovel up in the office as well. Sure. Well, you can coordinate that through Mike, and you know, you pick the day, and we'll make sure that the right people get invited to it. So appreciate it. Okay. Any other questions for Brandon before we move on?
Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Brandon. Appreciate the time.
Yep. Have a good day, guys.
We will move on to item number 8B, and that's the Airport Commerce Park Manager bonus follow-up. What I wanted to do is kind of give a, I don't know, summary or a history of what happened up to a certain point, and then turn it over to Mr. Porcerelli for him to give a summary of what happened at the board meeting. Back in November, this board decided to recognize the airport manager for all the good improvements and the increase in revenue that has been generated over, I'll say, probably the last 18 to 24 months. So in November, we unanimously approved a motion to support and recommend to the township board a bonus of $7,000 for the airport manager. At that time, I had reached out to Dale Riem, the airport manager, and asked him what the procedure was for that to happen. And Dale had indicated that they would not present that at a time other than the March timeframe, which is when they deal with salary increases for all the employees of the township. So even though we approved it in November, Dale said that it wouldn't be acted upon until March. So as the March timeframe was approaching, I reached out to Dale and asked him, was there anything that I needed to do or the commission needed to do in order to get that on the agenda and I guess lobby for the approval of that. Dale had indicated that there was no reason for him to have to do that or for me to do that or anyone else. I asked him if I needed to attend any kind of study session or any kind of board meeting. Did I need to put together sort of the story of why commission decided to approve a bonus and at the level that we did. He had indicated no. Again, just before the meeting, I asked him if I needed to attend anything, and Dale had indicated no. My understanding is that at one point, the bonus was put on the agenda, then it was pulled off the agenda, then it was put back on the agenda. And then next thing I know is a motion was made for a bonus for $4,000. And it was approved at that. And I'm not sure, and I'm hoping Mr. Porcerelli can enlighten us as to what happened to the $7,000 that we recommended and why it came to the board at 4 instead of 7 that we had recommended, and why our board or our commission, it was never discussed with us before that meeting as to a difference in what we had recommended and what was presented by Mr. Porcelli at the board meeting. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Porcelli, and if you could sort of enlighten us as to
sure.
Yes,
sure.
What happened? So,
yeah, Ron. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to explain this. I did call Mike. What occurred was I contacted the supervisor's office, and we were talking about. I was just going to read when you were talking about the amount. I think it was 4,500 and not 4, but I think we'll get to that. And it was originally for $7,000. I received a phone call, and I'm straight with you guys, and I always have been. That's why I called Mike right away. I don't know if he contacted you, Ron, but the majority of the board, I was told, did want to give Mike something definitely. There was a problem with none of the other managers getting anything this year, and there was a problem of this was more commission-based, as instead of, Mike does get a salary, I get that. He has numerous jobs at the airport. I get that also. So I had no problem giving him a raise. I'm sorry. I apologize. No problem giving him a bonus. So when I received that phone call that the majority did want to give him something, but they thought 7,000 was too high. And I said, okay, then I'll read if you notice what happened, Ron, is I read first the resolution, and it was for $7,000. And John, correct me if I'm wrong, if you're on. When I spoke with John, he wanted it on the 7 and go from there on the vote. So that's why the 7 came out that way, and not, I didn't change the motion. I didn't want to change the motion. When I spoke to John, he recommended that it just go as 7. I have no problem with that. So once we did that, after receiving the phone call, I talked to Mike and I explained to him, and Mike, correct me also if I'm wrong, but wasn't that for 45? I know it's kind of.
No, that number's correct. It was 45.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to make sure that I had that straight, and that we went from there, and I said, okay, but I'll read it and then we can discuss it and we'll go from there. Well, again, straight with Mike, the majority of the board, we talked about it, had a problem with some of the other managers and what they were going to do, what they were going to say, not like we were going to have some kind of mutiny or anything, but we have all the managers to think of. And especially because there was a 0, they implemented the 0% raise, no market adjustments, and that includes 0 COLA for all non-union, not just managers, but there's probably 3, 4, maybe 5 non-union individuals that aren't managers. So because they got zeros and the other issues that I just explained, and I understand the commission-based issue. When I say commission-based, not the airport commission, the commission on the work that Mike has been doing. It's been fantastic. But there was an issue of the amount at the time and what the temperature, if you will, of the township for raises for no one was. And they felt that it was in the best interest of all in this year. And I do understand, and I spoke with John about this before, that obviously that it's not coming from, and I made that clear, it's not coming from tax dollars. It's from your budget. This is from your budget, not the township, the township general fund or anything else. So that's how that happened. And then once we got to the meeting, I did read it. We did discuss it, and there was a majority either way already set, and they wanted to give a $4,500 raise, and that's how it went through. And I'll be more than happy to answer anything else. I hope I explained that, Mr. Chairman, somewhat so you guys can understand where it went from 7 to 45, how that worked and why.
Just clarification, Mr. Porcelli. So I'm assuming from what you said, you got a call prior to the meeting and they basically said 7,000 wasn't going to fly. Is
correct? Yeah, that is correct. And that's when I'm not sure, Ron, that you talked to Mike, and I did call Mike right away. And I wanted to be totally upfront with Mike and square with him and tell him exactly what was going on. That is absolutely correct, that they did want to give Mike a bonus. And because there was no, with the bonus instead of an actual raise, there's no legacy, there's nothing, into the pension, there's no more added later on, but they felt that he did deserve something, but they felt very uncomfortable for the rest of the township on what they were just doing in balancing that budget, and going from 7 to 45 they thought was appropriate. And that is correct. That's what the phone call was from. I'm sorry. That's what the content of that phone call was.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Porcelli?
I think I want to, you got to bear with me here, guys, but so Joe is correct. He and I did have a conversation, and he wanted to change the motion from $7,000 to $4,500. And my position was that the Commerce Park Commission approved a $7,000 bonus. And my personal feeling was it was his responsibility as a liaison to take that $7,000 to the township board and get that done for us. I mean, that was my feeling. And if people were against it, they could vote against it. If they were for it, they could vote for it. I'm not really sure how the vote went. I didn't watch the meeting, so I'm assuming that it was a 4-3 vote, where you had Joe, Uda, and Carl voting for it, and then the other 4 voting against it. I'm not sure if that's the case or not. Mike, do you know, or Joe?
No, John, that wasn't. I have to be upfront with you. No, that wasn't. It was 5-2. I believe it might even been Mike.
It was 5-2. Uta
5-2 or 6-1.
Uta and Mr. Bletcher voted in favor,
okay,
and the rest were nay.
Okay.
So, Joe, you voted against it.
That's correct, John. I wasn't trying to go against what you guys were doing. I saw both sides of it. I knew that either way, look, I've realized the mathematical problem that we've been having on this township board anyway, and the last 4 years. And the issue was, I could have done numerous things, but the point is, I want to be straight with you and correct that where it was 4-3. I'm sorry, Mike, you said 5-2?
Yes.
5-2.
Yeah, 5-2.
Yeah. Yes, that's correct. And I mean, if you want an explanation, John, I'll be more than happy to give you one of those too. But that's what happened. And I knew that there was 4 anyway that were going to happen. And my decision was, I definitely want, Mike, is this something? You're right. Should we go in there and battle for different things? It puts the township board, John, in a very bad position when we're brand new and we're asking for this amount of raise, what the consensus was. And I guess if you want to put me on the spot, I'm more than happy to. I've always been straight with you. When I go up to a podium as the chief of police, that was my problem. I've always been straight with them. That was the big issue that I had. Well, I mean, I'm just being straight with you so I can make sure when you get off here tonight, you understand where I came from and what exactly did happen.
So here's outside of my disappointment, and I will just kind of recap of why the commission wanted to give Micah, in my mind, an embarrassing $7,000 bonus for his performance of revenue generation of $2.3 million. I think Pirates Cove, $180,000 of the 10 brand new units that he did with 10 brand new tenants, and then $120,000 or $130,000 for the tennis center.
Fight. But when you're wrong or you're told no all the time, it's very disheartening. And I understand your point and what you guys are thinking right now. And I hope you don't feel, John. Well, no, I will say, we're in an open meeting and we could always get together and talk about this, but if you brought it up now at this open meeting, then I might as well finish it. But I know you're disappointed in me. I know you didn't think that the way it happened probably was going to be the way it happened, but there was really the totality of the circumstances was much greater than just the one issue of, it's a $7,000 bonus, one-time bonus. It was recommended, and that's the end of it. There was much more to this, and I'll be more than happy to talk to you about it. I guess it's over. There's not much we can do. Mike, you did get your 45, which I thought you were absolutely deserving of something. Just let me comment one more thing then, if we were talking about it. Mike's job has a lot of different facets to it. The dynamics that he has in getting leases, in getting revenue into the airport is what it's all about. And you guys both, I'm applauding the commission too. And Mike, you've done a great job, but the commission has done a great job of overseeing. Once I started getting into your books and seeing what, the numbers and everything like that, I was very impressed, John, because I've never been part of the airport. You know that. On the police chief side, I never had anything to do with the airport. So I guess my point is what I'm trying to say is, first off, there was no disrespect intended, but there's a lot more dynamics that went into this. And if you'd like to talk about it further, I'll be more than happy to. I think I've probably took too much of your guys' time already, but that is the situation. So we'll move on and we'll go from there.
Mr. Chairman. Hey, Mr. Porcerelli. Yeah, we're going to have to talk about it more. I guess I'm disappointed, as I'm assuming the rest of us are, but what you just said, you were impressed with our commission, what we've done, blah, blah, blah. And then you go right behind us and you vote against it. If you're so impressed with us, why wouldn't you trust what we were doing? Three of us.
Well, if you're gonna put it that way, then I'll put it straight to you. Mike is not paid on a commission basis.
Saying how straight you're going to be. Be straight.
I am straight.
Okay.
I am straight with you. Okay. Mike is not paid, and we talked about it. He's not paid on a commission basis.
We understand.
Mike is paid with a salary. I get it. This is not
know.
something. Okay, but you're already coming after me personally.
No,
if
I'm not.
You want
Joe.
to do that? That's
I'm
fine.
not. Joe, we don't know each other. I'm not coming after you.
You said if I'm hold on, let me speak then. You just said if I back you and I believe in you, then why did I go by and do something? You said something about behind your back and do it the other way.
Well, you voted it. You didn't even vote for it, so you voted against it.
That's correct.
Which is disappointing.
I get that. I get that.
That was my point.
There was many facets to that.
Okay. That's all I said. We need to talk about it, I think, in person. That would be better.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And I have no problem with that.
Because I also feel for $2,500, which is a lot of money, it's tremendously short-sighted for a guy that, as a township, I'm assuming you guys want to invest in your young talent. And that's what Mike is. And they don't grow on trees.
Correct.
So I just, it's disappointing as a commission. It's disappointing, I guess, the short-sightedness in that decision, in my opinion. So, and, next time, I guess this happens, maybe we communicate quite a bit, Joe. And I mean, I didn't know anything about it till the next day. I mean, nothing from you. And I still never got an email from you or, the rest of the board. And maybe you contacted folks individually, but we always try to communicate.
Yeah.
And I, still tonight.
And you are correct. I did only I called John. I'm sorry, John. I don't know it was a phone call. And I made a phone call to Mike. You are correct. I didn't call Ron or anyone else on the board.
Okay. Well, I know you're new and welcome to the board. And I know this is your fourth meeting and it's kind of been a bit of a mess. And, but we'll move forward and, we've got a great commission. We've got great talent. We got great things happening. And, Mike, you did a hell of a job last year and we're going to do it again. So thanks.
Any other comments? I guess I would just like to summarize it and say, as John had mentioned, I think timing was wrong. It was, when we approved this in November, it was still the old board. And if it would have went to the board at that time, maybe there would have been a different outcome. I know there was a new board that came in March and, didn't live through all the improvements that we made. And some of the projects that we were successful at, my guess is these are going to be hard to repeat. We're going to keep pushing and figure out other ways to generate even additional revenue. But we had an outstanding, I'll call it 2 years, and generated a lot of revenue. And we were just wanting to thank our manager and decided to offer our recommendation for a bonus. And unfortunately, it got tied up in I'll call it politics, and it didn't happen. So let's move on, and we'll work together as a board to make good things happen here in the future. So,
hey Ron, I want to make one more. Well, not a point, because I'm moving on from this, as I just told Joe a minute ago. But I think it's important to understand the airport and the Commerce Park. Yes, indeed, we are part of the township, and we look and we make decisions, even in our mission statement that we have. And if anyone hasn't read it, you may want to get with Mike to get that. But it is to operate a facility that is friendly to the neighbors of Groseal and fits into the culture fabric of Groseal. So all of our decisions are, how does what we want to do fit in to our community? It's not just be damn the community and let's do whatever is best for the airport. Every decision we make is held to the litmus test of how well it fits in the community. And it's been that way ever since I've been involved. So that's number one. Number two is that all revenue that we generate goes to the operation of the airport legally. That revenue cannot be diverted anywhere else. We can't raise money. We can't have leases. We can't take money from the airport and go make a bike path with off grounds. All that money is used to generate more money to do the first and foremost reason why we're here, to operate an airport. That's it. Our number one reason for existing is the airport. And the reason that we take these leases, make these leases, and operate the Commerce Park is so that we can keep the airport open. And if that's through FAA grants that we have match or whatever it is to keep runways and taxiways, we just talked about a project, that money is used to operate the airport and then reinvest back in to our facility to generate more revenue to do what? Operate the airport. So it's pretty simple. And everything that we do financially is designed to do that. And I just hope that you guys all understand that, and the new board understands it, and that everybody in the community understands that we're not here generating money, taking it away from the community, or we're not generating money so it can be diverted somewhere else. But we're taking that money, putting it back in the airport to keep the facility operating at a high level based upon what the community desires and needs are, and to keep the operation of that airport and facility out of the taxpayers' hands. And since 1971, we have done that. And since we have started this Commerce Park Commission back, I think in 2004 or somewhere like that, we have done a more consistent job of generating revenues to invest back into the facility. So it's important that everybody understands that we are not against the township, we're for it, but we are for sure a different entity than any other commission in this island.
And I fully understand that, John. I really do. May I, Mr. Chairman, can I just make one comment and then you can move on?
Yep.
And again, I'm not trying to cause an issue here, but the pay scale of every non-union individual and every manager has a reason behind it. And this was also brought up, I will just let you know, when they found out about the raise, other individuals were asking, well, wait a minute, I saved this, I saved that, yet I get nothing. So I guess, John, the niche is the airport that you're in. I get that. Just like when we talked when I was the police chief, my niche was the police department, period. That was first and most important. Your niche is the airport. My niche is not only to help you guys at the airport, be a conduit of information, but my niche is also all of the departments within the township. And that's all I'm telling you. And again, this wasn't done on something that I just wish I would have been involved in it earlier. I have to say that because I think I even mentioned that to Mike, that I do wish I was involved in it earlier. But John, I get it, but there is an issue of your niche is the airport. And I understand why all of you are disappointed over this. I get it. I get the disappointment, but in the reality of it, no matter what would have occurred that night, there were 4 votes of 4,500 period. So, I hope that, I don't know how else to say this, but I want to work with you guys. I'm very impressed with what you do. I was very impressed again with the commission's way and Mike's way of doing things. Once I learned, the numbers and how things happen. So I just want to tell you, my niche is the airport, but my niche is all of Grosse Ile Township also. And I think that has to be looked at also. And if you want somebody, and John, I'm going to tell you straight, I get it. And if you guys are that unhappy and think, man, we could have used somebody else, then maybe you want to get somebody else. That's fine. I'm here to help you. I'm here to do what's right. I fight for right behind me, and that's how I've been. And all I can give you is my experience as a police chief for 10 years. When I fought at the township level, it was for right. And I'm not telling you what's right or wrong here. I'm just telling you the timing was terrible. The timing was absolutely terrible for a new board to come to a new board and say, give us $7,000 for our manager because he did a good job this year when all the other managers are getting 0. That has a lot to do with it, guys. And I'm sorry, that was huge. That was absolutely huge. That's why I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to talk to you kind of separately and not in an open meeting, but I guess if this has to come out, you guys brought it out, I guess it's got to come out. So let's move on. And if there's issues with me being here with you, then let's talk about that. So, I don't have a problem with that. I get it. But I'm trying to do what I can do for you. I'm trying to do what I can do for the township. And I don't want to go anywhere, and I'm happy with what I'm actually doing now. So anyway,
we are not suggesting there be any changes. So I think we've kind of hit on all the specific items as it relates to this item. And if anybody wants to talk to Mr. Porcelli offline individually, please reach out to him and have those personal conversations.
Yes, please call me anytime. You guys got my cell number anytime, day or night. I'm free.
Okay. With that, I'd like to move on to the rest of the agenda. And our next item is subcommittee reports. We have none tonight. Chairman's report, there is none tonight. So we'll open it up to public comment. Is there anyone in the public that would like to make a comment?
Mr. Chair, see Mr. We have Alice and Mr. Glovis are on. Mr. Glovis just unmuted. I'll let him chat. I can give a quick update going back to the subcommittee report. The AAC has had 2 new members approved, Mr. Jack Gainey and a Mr. Josh Sterling. They were approved at the last board meeting under the consent agenda, so I'm going to make them aware of that. And I think Mr. Glovis and I should be talking soon about trying to get together with our updated committee and kind of rejuvenate and maybe get a new game plan going. But I can turn it over to Mark if he's got any further comment. I see him on.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that until I started to be into these commission meetings, I had no real view of what was going on. And I have to tell you that I'm impressed with the dedication that everyone is providing for the airport, and secondarily as the community, because the airport does benefit the community in many ways. I just want to make a statement that I've been looking for 3 people for my staff for months, and the talent is just not out there. And good talent's hard to find. And I had wished that Mike would have received his full bonus. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Is there any other comments, Mike?
We have a Alice Kerrigan on. Alice,
I'm right here.
Do you have any comment?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. This is the first time I've been to this commission, and I'm fairly new to the island.
Welcome.
Thank you. It is really impressive. You all do a very good job. I just have a couple of questions about the process. Somebody mentioned that when the commission votes unanimously, that vote needs to go to the board. And I don't understand why it didn't. I don't know. And I don't know, Mr. Porcerelli, why you were late coming into this. I mean, were there other meetings that you missed? I don't know.
No, I was put in on the township board in November, and this happened back. Mike might be able to tell you, but this was months before November. That's what we meant when I came in late to it.
Okay. I just wondered if the commission, who had all this experience with this situation, had voted unanimously, why it didn't go to the board, or with the, somebody from the commission going.
Oh, just so you understand, Ms. Kerrigan, there was a new elected board in November, and a board member sits on all of the different commissions.
I see.
And Mr. Porcerelli is our liaison from the elected township board who sits on our commission.
Okay.
And he didn't sit on the commission until he was elected in November. So there was a lot of things that happened prior to him being on the commission. So he was not aware of all of the good things that Mr. Duker had done, and was the reason we recommended. And all we do is we only recommend, whether our votes are unanimous or 6-1 or 7-2 or 4-3, that then goes on to the township board for them to make the final decision. So all we do is recommend, goes to the final.
I understand.
Goes to the board for their final vote. So
could the vote be added to Mr. Porcerelli or brought up again?
Sure. I mean, it can.
Up to him, but the board already voted, and I think it's kind of a dead issue. So
okay. Well, thank you.
Okay. Anything else?
Mr. Chair, obviously it's not my place to comment on most of this discussion. I'm thankful for the board and the commission's support on this matter. Just for the historical background, I know I've chatted with some of you guys on it. The commission did approve it when the previous board was in place. I had spoken to Township Manager Riem and I believe the supervisor at the time, and I had requested it go to the existing board. I think they only had one meeting left, and that's not because I was trying to sneak it or because I thought they would approve it, but that's because all of the work leading up to those projects was done with that board. I was told, I felt it would be appropriate to address it at that time, and I believe I talked to Mr. Chair about it, but I was told to wait until budget time because that's the proper time frame to do those. And obviously the new board came back on, and I had told Township Manager Riem it would not be appropriate at all, in my opinion. I wouldn't like to see it go forward with a new board in their first meeting or two. That would be very inappropriate. So under the township manager's discretion, he had requested it wait a few meetings in and go during the budget season when they normally go. So that was where some of the confusion kind of came from, or the delay in the process and why it didn't go to the old board. It was the direction that I think the commission was given through the township manager and the incoming politicians. So that was kind of the history and the background of why it dragged out a little bit and why it went to, I think, the 4th or 5th board meeting of the new board.
Okay. Any other public comment? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Moved.
Motion by Mr. Mans, supported by Mr. Tanova to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Say no. Motion carries. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Take care.